The Inheritance of Silence. The Father's Trap. The courtroom was cold that morning. Not temperature cold, but the kind of cold that seeps into your bones when you realize your own blood is turned against you. I sat in that wheelchair, hands folded in my lap, face blank as stone. Across from me, my son, 32 years old, wearing a suit I probably paid for, sitting next to his lawyer with that perfectly rehearsed expression of concern. And beside him, Elena, beautiful Elena, who kept looking at me with eyes that held something I couldn't quite name yet. The psychiatrist was testifying. His voice droned on about my progressive paranoid delusions, my memory loss, my erratic behavior. In his professional opinion, I was no longer capable of managing my own affairs. My son nodded gravely, playing his part to perfection. Then he spoke, his voice breaking just slightly. "Your Honor, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but my father, he's not the man he used to be. Last month, I found him standing in his garden at 3 in the morning, convinced someone was poisoning his water. He doesn't recognize old friends anymore. He's accused me of stealing from him. Me, the son who's taken care of him for 3 years. The judge looked at me with pity. "Mr. Hart, do you have anything to say?" I let the silence stretch. Then I looked directly at my son, and for just a moment, I let him see what was really behind my eyes. Cold, calculating, aware of everything. "I have nothing to say, Your Honor. Not yet." My voice came out soft, defeated, frail. Even the judge seemed uncomfortable. The hearing was postponed for 2 weeks. As they wheeled me out, I turned my head slightly toward Elena and whispered just loud enough for her to hear, "Ask him about the cabin." Her face went white. But to understand how we got to that courtroom, you have to go back 3 years, back to when I still believed in second chances, back to when my son walked into my office looking nervous, asking for money. Again. "Dad, I need to talk to you." I didn't even look up from my documents. If it's about money again, the answer is no. You have a degree, use it. But he persisted. He'd been accepted into a master's program at Columbia, business strategy, full-time, expensive. He was 30 years old, but he stood there like a child asking for allowance. I looked at him for a long moment. "You're 30 years old, son." "I know, Dad, I know, but this is different. This is my future, our future. Your business, I could run it properly, expand it. This is an investment in the Hart legacy." I sighed, took out my checkbook. "How much?" "60,000 for the year, plus living expenses. I'll pay you back, Dad, every cent." My hand hesitated before signing. "This is the last time. After this, you're on your own." He took the check quickly, relief flooding his face. "I understand. Thank you, Dad. I won't let you down." As he left, I whispered to myself what I already knew. You already have. That was the beginning. Over the next 3 years, I watched it happen slowly. Wire transfers, over and over. My son at parties, expensive restaurants, never studying. Missed calls. A birthday I spent alone with a cake meant for 2. In the second year, he showed up with Elena. She was different from the others, genuine, kind. When I met her, she smiled at me warmly, and for the first time in years, I remembered what it felt like to be seen as human, not just a bank account. I remember finding them arguing in the hallway once. Her voice carried, "Maybe your father is right about you." By the 3rd year, I was tired. My business was struggling because of all the money I'd poured into my son's bottomless needs. I worked late nights just to stay afloat. Elena started visiting me alone, bringing coffee, talking softly. There was something comforting about her presence, something that felt like the family I'd lost. But my son noticed. Jealousy flickered across his face whenever he found us talking. Then one night, I heard him on the phone through his window. "Yes, I need information about conservatorship proceedings. No, he's not violent, just confused, unstable. I'm worried about him." That's when I knew. The trap had been set by him. After the hearing, they moved me into what they called a care facility, really just a nice apartment with a visiting nurse who checked on me daily. It felt like a cage dressed up as comfort. Elena came to visit, bringing groceries. The nurse left us alone, and Elena sat near me, her face troubled. "How are you holding up?" "Like a man watching his own funeral." She was quiet for a moment. "Daniel, I want you to know I didn't know he was going to do this, not like this." "But you knew he was planning something." She couldn't deny it. "Tell me, Elena, why are you marrying him?" "I love him," but her voice wavered. "That's not an answer, that's an excuse." She stood to leave, hurt, but I spoke softer. "I'm sorry, that was cruel. You've been kind to me when you didn't have to be. That means something." She sat back down, torn. "He's not always like this. The man I fell in love with, he was different. Ambitious, yes, but not cold. Money has a way of revealing what was always there. You just didn't have to see it yet." Then she asked about the cabin. "What cabin?" For the first time, something dangerous surfaced in my expression. "A place we used to go when he was a boy, after his mother died. It's where I taught him about trust." "What happened there?" "Nothing that can't be undone yet. 20 years ago, that cabin held different memories. My son was 12, sitting by the fire with me shortly after his mother's death. 'Dad, do you think Mom can see us?' 'I don't know, son. I hope so.' 'I miss her.' 'So do I, every day.' I held him close and pulled out a small lockbox. 'Aaron, I'm going to teach you something important, something about trust. This box contains everything important to our family. Documents, passwords, accounts. If anything ever happens to me, this is yours, but you have to promise me something.' 'Anything, Dad.' 'Never open it unless you absolutely have to, and never use what's inside for the wrong reasons. Power isn't about control, it's about responsibility.' 'I promise.' I hid that lockbox under a loose floorboard. This cabin is ours, a place where we can always be honest with each other. No matter what happens, we'll always have this." He nodded solemnly. It was sacred between us. But back in the present, sitting in that apartment prison, those memories felt like they belonged to different people. Late one night, Elena came back. She used a key the nurse had given me and found me sitting in the dark, waiting. "You came." "I shouldn't be here. If he finds out, he's busy planning what to do with his inheritance. He won't notice." She sat across from me, and in the darkness, I let her see me clearly for the first time. "Tell me the truth. Are you really sick?" I smiled. It was cold, calculated. "What do you think?" Her breath caught. "Oh my God, you've been faking it." "Not faking, performing. There's a difference. Depression, memory gaps, paranoia, all subjective, all easy to mimic if you know what you're doing." "Why?" "Because I needed to see how far he would go, and now I know." I stood and moved to the window. For 3 years, I paid for his life. I believed in second chances, third chances. I told myself every father doubts his son at some point, but doubt and certainty are different animals. "So you set a trap." "I created an opportunity. He chose to take it. The psychiatrist? I paid him more than my son did. Every test, every evaluation documented exactly what I wanted them to document." "That's insane," she whispered. "No, insane is spending 3 years of your life, your savings, your dignity on someone who sees you as an obstacle. What I'm doing is justice." "What are you going to do?" "That depends on you." "On me?" "You're the only one who knows the truth now. You can tell him, warn him, or you can help me finish this, and in return, I'll make sure you're not buried when he falls." "Why would I help you?" I moved closer. "Because you already know he'd throw you aside the moment someone better came along. Because you've seen the way he looks at other women when he thinks you're not watching. Because deep down, you know exactly who you're engaged to." Tears formed in his eyes. The truth hurt, but she couldn't deny it. "I'm not the villain here, Elena. I'm just the only one willing to say what you already know." She whispered, barely audible. "What do you need me to do?" But before I could answer, I needed her to understand where this all truly broke. 6 months earlier, I'd been in my office late at night going through financial records. My face changed from confusion to horror as the numbers revealed themselves. My son walked in, surprised to see me awake. "Dad, I thought you'd gone to bed."
When did you start taking money from the business account? He froze. I don't know what you're talking about. $40,000, transferred over the past year in small amounts. You thought I wouldn't notice. It was a loan. I was going to pay it back. With what? You don't have a job, you haven't finished your degree. What exactly are you doing with all this money? His mask slipped. Anger. Building a future that doesn't depend on you. This stops now. I want every cent back or on pressing charges. He laughed bitterly. Charges? Against your own son? Against a thief, which is what you've become. His face contorted with pure rage. You self-righteous bastard, you think you're so perfect, but I know the truth about Mom. I went very still. What did you say? I know you were with her the night she died. I know you were driving.
I know you walked away without a scratch while she... Enough. You want to call me a thief? You stole my mother, and then you had the audacity to tell me about responsibility and trust. You're a hypocrite. My hands shook, not with weakness, with rage. Get out. Gladly. And you know what? Maybe it's time people knew the truth about the great Daniel Hart. Maybe it's time everyone knew you're not the hero you pretend to be. He stormed out. I sat there alone, breathing hard. Then, slowly, deliberately, I picked up the phone. Yes, I need to schedule a psychiatric evaluation. For myself. The trap was set, but not by him, by me. The final hearing arrived. My son looked confident. Elena sat beside him, but wouldn't meet his eyes. They wheeled me in, looking even frailer than before. We're here for the final determination regarding Mr. Daniel Hart's competency. Mr. Hart, have you prepared any statement? I didn't respond immediately. Then, slowly, I stood up from the wheelchair. The room went silent. My son's face drained of all color. Your Honor, I have more than a statement. I have evidence. My lawyer stood, holding a thick folder. My son panicked. What is this? Dad, sit down. You're not well. I'm perfectly well. I've been perfectly well this entire time. I turned to face him directly. You wanted me declared incompetent so you could take control of my estate. What you didn't realize is that every test, every evaluation, every moment you thought I was losing my mind, I was documenting your attempts to steal from me. Over the past 3 years, my son embezzled nearly $200,000 from my business. He forged signatures, he manipulated accounts, and when I discovered it 6 months ago, he threatened to destroy my reputation unless I gave him what he wanted. That's a lie. You are insane. You're proving it right now. Am I? Because I have recordings, every conversation, every threat, including the one where you told me I'd make sure I rotted in a home if I didn't cooperate. My lawyer played the audio. My son's voice, cold and vicious, filled the courtroom. You're going to sign everything over to me, or I swear to God I'll make your life hell. You'll die alone in some facility, and no one will even remember your name. Elena covered her mouth in horror. The judge looked devastated. Why didn't you come forward with this earlier? Because I needed to know if there was any humanity left in him. I needed to see if he'd stop. He didn't. He accelerated. I turned to my son, and for the first time, genuine sadness filled my voice. I gave you everything, not just money, chances, faith, love, and you saw it all as weakness. He broke down. You were never there. After Mom died, you buried yourself in work. I raised myself. I was grieving. I was trying to keep our lives together. And yes, I made mistakes, but this isn't about me being a bad father. This is about you being a bad man. The judge reviewed the documents, but I wasn't finished. There's one more thing, Your Honor. You mentioned the night your mother died. You said I was driving, that I walked away unharmed. My son's eyes widened in fear. You were 8 years old. You didn't understand what really happened. I wasn't driving. Your mother was. She swerved to avoid a deer, and we went off the road. I got you out first because you were unconscious. I went back for her, but the car exploded. I didn't walk away unharmed. I live with that night every single day. And I never told you the truth because I didn't want you to blame her. I wanted you to remember her as she was, loving, joyful, alive. I protected you from the truth, and this is how you repay me." The judge cleared his throat. "Based on the evidence presented, I'm dismissing the conservatorship petition. Furthermore, I'm recommending the district attorney review these documents for potential criminal charges." My son looked up at me, destroyed. "Dad!" he whispered, but I had already turned away. Weeks later, I was back in my home, packing up his belongings. Elena came by one last time. "You didn't press charges." "No." "Why not?" "Because he's already paying. Every day for the rest of his life, he'll know what he became. That's worse than prison." She told me she'd ended things with him. She couldn't stay after everything. I told her I was sorry, but she said I shouldn't be. I was right. She saw who he really was. She just hadn't wanted to admit it. "What will you do now?" "Live. Properly this time. No more sacrifices for people who don't appreciate them. No more silence." "That sounds lonely." "Lonely and alone are different things. I'd rather be alone with my dignity than surrounded by people who see me as a resource." She smiled sadly and left. I stood alone in my house, but there was peace now. Days later, I drove to that cabin, the one from my son's childhood. It was older, more weathered. I found the floorboard and pulled out the old lockbox. Inside were documents, photos, and a letter I'd written years ago, addressed to my son. I read it silently, tears forming, then placed it back, closed the box, and buried it again. I walked outside and looked at the forest. "You taught me about trust, son, and I taught you about consequences. I just wish you'd learned the lesson before it destroyed us both." I got in my car and drove away. The cabin remained silent and empty. But inside, hidden under that floorboard, the letter waited. It read, "Aaron, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Everything I owned is yours, not because you earned it, but because you're my son, and I never stopped loving you, even when you made it impossible. Use it wisely, use it better than I did, and forgive me for the father I couldn't be." Some inheritances are measured in money. Others are measured in silence. And the heaviest ones are the truths we bury, hoping someone will one day have the courage to dig them up.